Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for attending today. We're very excited to be having a webinar with our friends at Yooz. Those that are new to Endeavour, thank you very much for attending today and watching. And those that are long-term valued clients, thank you once again. You may see a variety of logos along the bottom of our slide. Endeavour's been very active and busy in our marketing and branding, as well as different merger and acquisitions with some extended consulting firms. So Express Info, a number of clients are joining us as well. And Cortera is also a recent addition into the Endeavour family, along with Purely CRM and GP Support North. Today we're talking about Dynamics GP and Business Central, and of course any Dynamics GP clients that are looking to move to Business Central, and how all three of those scenarios work really well with Yooz for AP automation and obviously some purchase requisitions and purchase orders that go with that. Agenda for today is we'll do some introductions, why Yooz, and talking about automation. So why we enjoy working with Yooz. They have a great integration with GP and Business Central. Members of their team have worked with those integrations, and it helps to really extend beyond Dynamics GP and beyond Business Central. Has the emails, the workflow automation, the approval processes, very easy to approve on mobile and approve not only purchase requisitions, but also into all the invoice payments and approvals across to all your departments. So it's really expanding outside of your core finance team. And then there's a whole payments module as well, where you can be taking money from your bank and paying invoices instantly to reduce some of your manual efforts. Obviously, that aligns with your digital transformation, and because it is a cloud-based application, for those on Dynamics GP, it's storing it up in the Yooz cloud for all your invoices, saving on storage, and obviously you're on-premise. And for those on Business Central, it can be stored in the Yooz cloud. Predominantly, clients choose to store it either inside of Business Central or into SharePoint. Having it in SharePoint is obviously a lower cost of storage fees. For Canadian clients that are on the line today, there is full support for HST and dealing with the various Canadian sales taxes, as well English and French. And that means not only on the user interface, but also reading French invoices. And obviously that's very key for any of our clients in Quebec. End of the day, we're here to help you get the most out of your ERP systems. And just a quick deeper dive on some of the integration. So we're looking at the chart of accounts, all get pulled into GP or Business Central. There's the purchase orders, pulling in the purchase order information. If there's purchase requisitions, they would be staying within the Yooz system, but ultimately creating an invoice, blocking it for payment, and sending the payment remittance through the system. Liz will do a much better job on a different slide coming up.
Yeah, I'm really happy to be here with you guys. I've been with Yooz for about 4 years. I'm a senior account executive here under our Microsoft practice. So just a little bit about Yooz. First of all, we are a cloud-based solution, and as AP automation, we want to provide the most flexible, user-friendly, and also scalable solution to address market gaps by offering, also an affordable alternative. We strive to enable businesses of all sizes to benefit from AP automation and document management as well. Yooz reinvests 25% of its revenue back into R&D, so we're always looking to be at the forefront of the AI-driven technology space with document automation. We've published over 100 scientific papers on AI and machine learning, so really solidifying our expertise in document automation. So we're dedicated to having all of our clients receive the most cutting edge technologies. Just a few awards that we've been winning just to show the longevity of our product, the consistency in winning these awards, and some of the most recent that we've received on the G2 website, already here in 2025. So in discussing scalability of Yooz, Yooz can be utilized if you're, processing 100 invoices a month all the way up to 100,000. So we're agnostic when it comes to the size of your organization, the vertical. We're not specialized in one particular vertical. As you can see, our customer base here on the left-hand side. And then on the right-hand side, we do have hundreds of customers already within the Dynamics community on all of our different, Dynamics versions, applications, some of the legacy products as well. So a lot of the common pain points why people, automate, the complexity, how many, and if you haven't run any of these KPIs internally, I highly suggest how many days is it taking you to process invoices? What is the actual cost per invoice breakdown? What's the percentage on late payments? Are you receiving any fees? Are you not able to take advantage of early payment discounts, and then fraud attempts, or have you been a victim of fraud? So these are some of the KPIs that have been taken over a study done with hundreds of different customers, and this is the average of what we've found. So why AP automation? It enhances accuracy with the AI that's driven and built into Yooz, enhancing that accuracy. Now you can unlock that real-time data. You can have data at your fingertips, where everything is sitting at once within your organization, and being able to make decisions faster when it comes to cash flow. It simplifies your operations. You can have that standardization across the board, making sure that everyone is compliant, and then also our built-in fraud detection to stop those scammers and phishing attempts that are becoming more and more sophisticated here. So when we look at the entire AP process within Yooz, just starting at this initial purchasing module. So as Scott mentioned, we can create, we do have a purchasing module within Yooz. If you need some better controls around your purchasing process, we can create requisitions, have those flow through an approval chain into creating that PO within Yooz. If you're creating that purchase order within Business Central, great. We can pull that PO data into Yooz. From the capture piece, it's multi-channel capture. So sending in, auto-forwarding emails from your AP inbox directly into Yooz in real time from your vendors, and the ability to drag and drop files, mobile upload, taking a photo. We can pull from a shared folder and also EDI import, along with our brand new invoice fetcher that we're launching here this month, which is going to be, maybe you have to log on to a portal and download invoices. We can automate all of that. So multi-channel capture. As soon as those files hit Yooz, they'll start going through our AI-based data extraction. With Yooz's AI, much different from OCR. You don't have to train Yooz to be able to understand the context of your invoice and to recognize each of your vendors' invoices. This is already built in with that type of logic and 85% accurate out of the box, so you can get moving very, very quickly. In less than 30 seconds, this invoice has been completely read, analyzed, and sent through the workflow. So we can now determine who we want to send it to for review. If these are your clerks, normally having to key in that manual data entry. Now they're just doing a quick review and validation of the data that Yooz extracted. Do we need to code it? I'll show you about our GL memorization on your straight payables that are not related to a purchase order, and we have that automated PO matching function, so you no longer have to go search for that PO to perform that manual match. If invoices need an approval, we can build that approval chain inside of the back end of Yooz that will automatically direct those invoices to the correct approvers. There's really no type of approval workflow that we cannot accommodate. We have some amazing capabilities there in our routing engine inside of Yooz. And then we also have our payment module. So this is Yooz's ability to release payment to your vendors and automate that process as well. Your vendors will be onboarded. So if you are going through the process of trying to gather that information, trying to, migrate them from MailCheck to ACH, we can do that for you. Verifying your vendor's preferred payment method. We also have cashback opportunities on the most efficient and secure payment method, which is our virtual card method, which requires no custodial account, no pre-funding whatsoever. At the top, you'll see the no-touch process. So we can create a touchless workflow at any step, really, that you see here inside of the workflow for certain invoices, like utilities, repeat bills that don't necessarily need an approval, a perfect PO match. So we can build all of those to really optimize and take advantage of the full automation that we have. Which brings us to the demo. So we'll go ahead and hop into our demo environment here. So Yooz is browser-based. You can log on from any device utilizing your browser, and also in our mobile app, which has about 90% of the same functionality in the mobile app as you do on your browser. So we can utilize single sign-on here, as well as multi-factor authentication. Some single sign-on capabilities are really wonderful when it comes to your user setup and some of the roles and permissions, and we can utilize those same groups that you have in maybe Active Directory if you're using Azure Active Directory. So whenever I log in, just give you a pretty basic lay of the land. We've got our main workspaces up here at the top. And again, with our user access, we're able to limit visibility in different workspaces, different fields on the document, and which types of fields modification and editability that certain users have. So we have the capture workspace, which is where we will automate the capture of your invoices either through your AP inbox. So you can see here, I can have actually unlimited AP inboxes. If you're working with multiple companies or multiple locations, it doesn't need to be a specific Yooz email. We can utilize multiple inboxes there and have different rules maybe that tie certain invoices to certain companies. We also have the file upload component. So Yooz can capture up to 26 different file types. You're not limited on the types of files that you're able to upload into Yooz. It can be full document management as well. So if you'd like to store any other types of organizational documents or push them through a workflow, you can utilize Yooz for this. Yooz also has what's called Smart Split technology. So if you have vendors that batch invoices in one PDF, you're normally having to break those out and organize those pages, Yooz will do that for you. Same thing if you're still receiving some invoices on a in the mail. You don't have to go and scan those one by one. You can take that stack of paper invoices, hit it on the scanner with one scan, and Yooz will do the rest of the work for you. In the My Tasks workspace, so this is where a user inside of Yooz is basically going to live. Okay, I'm actually logged in as Andy the accountant here. So you can see in the to-do workspace, we have this organized, maybe broken out by company and by document type. So if we want to work out of one of these particular sections here, you can easily do so, or you can bring it all into one view and just work down the line. So great for centralization if you're working, to centralize your AP with multiple locations or companies. The entire interface that you see here, how we organize our documents, the columns, even down to the color of this, is completely customizable to the user. We can also see immediately which invoices have been marked late, so we can set up rules on late notifications, how often we're getting notified about tasks that we receive and use, and then also if they've been sitting in someone's queue for a certain amount of time, how often we're sending them notifications, or we can notify other users and also escalate those tasks. We can batch complete documents with this complete component and clicking into that. If there's an invoice that we want to put on hold for any reason, we can block it, give it a reason, and then we can come back to it later in the blocked status. And then you can also click into your in progress component. So this is going to be a window of visibility here into everything that's going on in your organization at your fingertips. You can see documents, and I've organized this by recipients. to my preference. But how many documents or invoices are sitting in whose queue, waiting to be approved, waiting to be paid, goods waiting to be received inside of purchasing, that sort of thing. So that's the My Tasks workspace. We'll come back to that in just a second. My Exports, because Yooz is running on an automated schedule in our integrations with GP or BC, you don't really need to dive into that as well. And I'll review statistics at the end. We have our search bar here. Because Yooz is fully indexing each document. So again, no templating, no training. We're reading every word on each document. You can search for any document by just a keyword, kind of like a Google engine, and also some great reporting aspects there as well. We do have our back-end user settings, and just to give you an idea of how our workflows are generated, we have a workflow for each document type. So for each purchase request, who does that need to go to for approval? What happens on the PO side if we are creating POs in Yooz? If we have POs that are being created in Business Central, we can have our own routes for those particular invoices and our straight payables. Like I mentioned, we can think of a criteria how you want to route an invoice. We can do it. We can use any data point from the invoice or system data. In what I'll show you today, we have our initial review section. Some of those invoices we're going to pass through if Yooz has completed them, if they're certain vendors under a specific dollar amount and they're complete, they're not a duplicate, we have a balanced GL, we're just going to send those straight into the approvers. So, a really good use of automation there with those touchless workflows. In the approval section, we can have, multi-level approval if we need 1, 2, 3 levels of approval, maybe based on an amount threshold as an example. We also have what's called parallel approvals. So if we have, let's just say an invoice that's hitting multi-departments or multiple projects, and you have a manager assigned to each one of those, this gives you that line level approval. So each one of those managers have to approve it within this step in order for it to move forward. Whenever I talk a little bit about Yooz Protect, our AI fraud detection, we can also create a step for those suspicious documents for those to be reviewed. After those invoices are posted, if you would like to utilize payments in Yooz with Yooz Pay, we can have an approve for payment step and then also the payment release step. Same thing again, just going back to those touchless workflows. If you have vendors with a short pay term due on receipt, we can automate that and release those automatically once they're in the approved or posted status.
Liz, how about recurring invoices? So in our office, we have a water cooler. Every quarter, they keep sending me an invoice to say, pay this for your water cooler rental. We used to have the bottles. Now it's a fancy machine.
Right.
And it's the same amount every quarter. And internally, Endeavour's not using Yooz at this time, but we're definitely looking at it. I'm trying to get the team to do it for our own Business Central. But if that came in and it's the exact same amount, can it be, is there a pre-approval to say, if the amount is exactly the same as last month, last quarter, and it's been pre-approved, just process it, pay it, and don't bother Scott?
We can definitely set up that type of workflow in the approval. We can even flag if that amount is typically higher and stop it at that point. So absolutely, that's a perfect example of one that, we don't necessarily need to look at every single month unless there's a change. So,
and that's exactly what happened. I compared it. I'm like, hey, you guys tricked me. You increased it by $20 this month. And so I'd go back and tell my finance team, don't pay this yet. I have to go talk to them and all this other stuff. So if that's an automated trigger, I don't have to deal with it the rest of the times.
That's great example. I love that. So just to walk you through what it looks like to create a purchase request inside of Yooz, I can have this purchase request button. I'll select, the company that I'm working out of. And this is a general form. we will configure this purchasing form, to the exact fields that you'd like. There's a lot of hidden fields and unique custom fields that we can create here, but it's really simple. There's our, document type. We're going to select a vendor. We can have a billing address or delivery address available here. What I want to point out is our purchase order types that we can create. So if it's a contract base, maybe we're doing something monthly. You want those individual lines to have a start and an end date. A flat fee, amount based, maybe it's just a service for a flat fee, and then also standard quantity based. So 3 different purchasing types. We can receive goods inside of Yooz, so a full 3-way match capabilities inside of Yooz. We have, whenever we select that vendor, we can have that items list as a drop-down. You can also just start, typing that particular item, and it will add the item to the requisition form here. We can put in our quantity, our unit price. We can even include the tax within the total here. And then what you see is here, as far as the account, budget, the division project, this your account code, and then your division project would be your dimensions. So we can have the memorization on the coding right here on that item. We can also lock it down for a particular user to not be able to adjust that coding. Yooz also does have a budget module, so we can create a budget table in the back end of Yooz that will automatically allocate based on rules. So if we're coding this to materials or OPEX, we can automatically apply that budget here, and then you can track that budget. If there's an item that's also not within the list, you can always free type if you wanted to, I need a 12-inch fan, whatever that is. Once this request has been approved, then that would save the new item and the associated coding with it. We can add attachments here. So if you'd like to add supporting documentation to this request, you can drop them in here on the attachments tool.
Thanks,
and
Liz.
then yeah.
Just to jump in, just to reiterate and state the obvious for everyone on the call today, most of our clients in using GP and using Business Central haven't fully embraced all the purchase and cost accounting side, so they're not using portals for every single employee and all the department heads to do these types of self-service and requisitions and then pushing it through. That's always typically a phase 2, phase 3, and then there's licensing from Microsoft that's involved. With Yooz, it's a lot more common as well as affordable on a per user basis when you're bridging outside of the standard finance team into that sort of digital transformation.
Yeah, that's a great point. And with Yooz, it is unlimited user licenses in our cost structure. So that's why so many people love to take advantage of that purchasing module, for simple things, some more complex. And then also with the approvals, you aren't required to have a Dynamics license within Yooz. So let's start processing some invoices. So the first invoice I'll look at today is going to match to a purchase order. So just to give you a lay of the land here, we have all of our header fields. These will all be configured and mirrored to your Dynamics environment. So it's like everything is somewhat familiar, just laid out a little bit differently here. And then on the document, I mentioned that full text indexing, so you can see as I just scroll my mouse that Yooz is reading every character on this document. So as I'm tabbing through my header fields, I can see that Yooz has automatically detected that this invoice is PO based. It recognized my vendor from my vendor list, and that vendor list is maintained in your Dynamics environment. When we get to data that it has read from the invoice itself, it will highlight that for us in yellow. And then I'm just tabbing through and making these confirmations. So this is really what a day in the life would look like for an accounting clerk. That's just going through and making a really quick validation now, removing that manual data entry. And when Yooz reads this PO number here, it matched that PO data from the purchase order that we just created and we have a full match. So you can see all that individual receipt, that goods receipt, is going to be visible here at our line level detail at the invoice. I can go in, there's a lot of things that I can talk about in PO matching and functionality discrepancies that if you would like to schedule a demo later, if you're having a lot of issues with POs, your PO heavy customer, would love to talk to you about that, but we can catch discrepancies for you. You can match multiple purchase orders or have multiple receipts per invoice. Another great example of the attachments feature, just being able to drag and drop these supporting documents here to that invoice, creating this electronic filing cabinet. All of communication now can be internalized here within the platform. We can mention different approvers or different users, even if they're outside of the workflow. Maybe you wanted a second set of eyes on it. And again, if you are creating that inside of Yooz, you can see in linked documents. If we click here, you can see the purchase request and purchase order that's associated now to this invoice. So everything logged, a full audit trail, of every document related to this invoice and every click that's been made by any type of user. On a straight payable, for example, I can open up let's just call it, let's actually do this one here. So with GL memorization on our non-PO invoice that you see here, so the example Scott gave, this is where we have the coding memorized for this particular vendor. This is all done. So not only can we pass it through as a pre-approved invoice, now we have all of this coding done, so it's really a snap for accountants, and you can go through and batch process these as well inside of a different viewpoint. When it comes to fraud protection, this is a great example. So duplicate detection is a pretty fundamental criteria for most most AP automation platforms. So we are flagging this document as a duplicate. We can click here to view the duplicate side by side and see which data points it's picking up as the duplicate. But we're taking it a step further. So again, that water cooler invoice, we can actually detect through our AI and through the historical data of this vendor's invoice, we can flag if a vendor has an atypical amount, saying that it's slightly higher than usual for this vendor. So we're flagging that here as well. We're also flagging some fraud detection. So it's notifying us that a bank account defect has been detected. So whenever we have suspicious activity on the fraud detection, it will alert you with this fraud detection tab as well. So it's with Yooz's AI fraud detection, it can be very technical, but basically it's looking at, is this the original document? Has someone gone online, found this auto service truck and tire, and copied and pasted a little sticker out here with their new account number and routing number, right? So that's really common. So we're actually looking at multi-layer analysis on that document. Does all of their vendor information data on the invoice match what we have inside of Dynamics? So really taking it above and beyond in fraud detection with the atypical amount and the vendor data notification, confirmation, and that multi-layer analysis of the document itself. Yooz also has, if any of you are performing vendor reconciliation with your vendor statements, we just launched this at the end of Q4, and it is Yooz vendor statements. So we can now take this long, tedious process of reconciling month end. Yes, there is an integration with Yooz and FNL. Yes, there is. Very similar to the one in Dynamics that I'll get into it here in just a second. For vendor statements, so you can see in this example, we've actually got a monthly statement with about 20 invoices. So as soon as this file hits Yooz in less than 30 seconds, Yooz is going here at the line level to match. Now down here at the bottom of the screen here, does this invoice exist in Yooz? Does the amount on the statement match the total amount on the invoice itself? Is it a match? What's the document date? At a glance, you can see, where is this invoice in the process? Has it been paid? Yes or no? Has it been blocked? And then what's the due date? So it's giving us a notification that not all invoices have passed the review phase. So we know that we need to get those in process. If we're maybe at month-end close, we can also sort here on this matching column and see an immediate discrepancy that we have. The amount of the statement does not match up with the amount of the invoice that we've received. So with Yooz, because we are unlimited user license, we also grant external vendor access. So you can add your vendor here as a user, which gives you the ability to mention them and communicate right here, all keeping within the same audit trail. And just to give you an example of what that looks like from the vendor's perspective, I can log in and impersonate a vendor user. So if you'd like to give your vendors, if you want them to be able to, track the progress of their invoices, I hear people love this. If you're ever working with W-9s or subcontractors, they always want to know the minute that they're paid. They can log in and track it from here. And of course, we limit the visibility on fields and coding. They wouldn't be able to see any of that detailed information. So vendor statement reconciliation, some great, if you guys are having multiple people reconcile these, taking hours or days at month end, now you can get it done within, bringing that down to one person in maybe a couple hours, with Yooz. So those are just some of the review processes that I'd like to show you. Does Yooz have the ability to take tax information and issue 1099s directly? No, not yet. So we do have that on the roadmap to release 1099 information, but we can flag 1099 vendors inside of Yooz. There's like a trigger that we know if that's a 1099 vendor or not. So they would be able to log in and access all of their invoices. If you can also generate a report that if you'd like to export that and send it out to your 1099 vendors. For an approver, I'll just go ahead and log into an approver. And, how is Canadian taxes handled? GST, HST, and QST. So this is an example here of taxes. So we can recognize them and memorize them here at the line level. This is invoices actually in euros. I have a Canadian example on a slide. Maybe I can send that over to you, Scott. But you can see at the line level here, we can recognize it on the document itself and add it to the line. So the example that I'll send you, it has the HST and GST split out on the line level. So, I don't know offhand the number of Canadian clients, but that Yooz does have, but it's great. We're very capable when it comes to Canadian taxes. Can Yooz look up the exchange rate from the Bank of Canada website? So we're actually integrated with the U.S. Central Bank with our API. I can check on the Central Bank of Canada. It's completely optional if you want to have that currency conversion in Yooz. I think a lot of times Business Central can make that conversion for you.
Yeah, we do that in Business Central.
Posting date. Yeah, right. So a lot of customers will just capture the original amount and then have Business Central do the rest.
And then we can get more complex when we start about the payments and which accounts it's coming from and
exactly,
which currency do you pay. U.S. dollar invoices in U.S. dollars, you pay euro invoices in euro dollars, Canadian invoices in Canadian dollars. And where those accounts are set up, and there's a lot of extra fancy stuff to avoid some of the bank fees that Endeavour has worked with.
Perfect. From an approver standpoint, looks very similar, right? When we open up an individual invoice, Again, we can lock down some fields like we've done here. This user isn't able to modify any of the header fields. We do have this send back button. A lot of people ask me this, so I like to tell it because of just the amount of times I get asked is, if someone rejects something or send it back, can you make it mandatory for them to have a reason why? Absolutely. So if we come in here and we select that user that we wanted to send it back to on the workflow line, we can absolutely make this a mandatory comment in order to send it back as rejected to a previous user. If we needed to, maybe I get this question a lot, if we needed someone else's eyes on it aside from us, are we able to send it off to another user? You can forward this invoice to another user if they have the same level of permissions, like they're also an approver. So we can move that, but and we lock all those roles down, and compliances again is why we do suggest the automated approval function. So we can approve these one by one. We can also move into this batch functionality. So taking advantage of the complete component. Here's all the invoices that I'm going to log in and approve today. I can come into this details panel, which is what a lot of my approvers really like to do, and they can just break this down really easily. There's my invoice image in a split screen view. Here are my properties. If I'm tracking this against a budget, this would show my budget lines, and then my coding lines here. So if you needed to make an adjustment, you just click right into this invoice, make the adjustment, hop back into this complete component, and then just go down the list. This is very similar to the mobile app interface as well. So when you open it, here's my invoice, I swipe, my properties, I swipe, comments, swipe, my audit trail. Then I'll show you what it looks like from a payer perspective. Log into my payer. So again, Yooz Pay is optional. You're not required to release payments out of Yooz. You can have this approve for payment step where if this is a controller or a director of finance that's maybe wanted to short pay a bill, again, this would be an invoice that has been posted now that we're going to release for payment. Or approve for payment. We can short pay here. We can also add a comment here to the vendor. Whenever we release payments out of Yooz, we're also going to include a full remittance detail to that vendor. So this comment would be visible to them. And once we're releasing payment, we can go to this My Payments tab. So you can see here's all of my payments that are pending the release. They've already been approved. Maybe I just want to group this by my vendor. Just regroup this here. There we go. And so this is really what it looks like for a lot of my customers that come in. They want to pay their Lindy invoice. I group this by vendor. Maybe you want to group it by due date over here in the section. Absolutely, you can. And there's that field here. And then you can select this vendor's invoices, hit pay. This will go out in one EFT/ACH or mailed check with both of these batched on a single remittance for you guys. Or you can automate the release of certain vendors' invoices. You also have this payments in progress. So this is showing you everything that's waiting to hit. And then you can see here in one of these that we've batched 4 different invoices and a credit note. So we've automatically applied the $423 on this credit note to the total amount, and that will be reflected in the remittance detail to that particular vendor. And then once the payments have been completed, they'll move over here. So a complete snapshot at any point in time of where all of our money is sitting, giving you ability to make some better decisions on cash flow and have a more, all of the visibility into the process as a whole that you might not have now.
And then in Business Central and F&O, it's also pushing that same level of detail into the ERP as well. So you can inquire in Yooz or inquire within the ERP, and you have that one version of the truth.
Exactly. In the search bar I mentioned earlier, we'll just put it to the test. The ability to search by a keyword. So I want, maybe there's a, some sort of item, or, we just need to find a particular invoice. I can now type in that keyword drum that you saw me type in, and there is that word. So we can search for any document by just a keyword. I've had some people say, well, now I have to go through every month and find every invoice that contains a surcharge. This is going to help me immensely, not just in the search results, but you can also save these searches. So we can create reports and folders here inside of Yooz. If we wanted to say, show me my duplicates from the month, my particular vendors, every invoice that's been coded to, these dimension or this department, etc. We can create these saved folders, and then we can also share them with other users, so you can see that these have been shared with other users inside of Yooz as well. We also have reports. So let's just open up this particular one, our tasks in progress. We wanted to bring up, maybe an accrual report. We're able to create a report from this search and define which type of report that we want to see. So what I'll actually show you here is what this looks like inside of Excel. So you can name this report, and then we can, come on, open up for me here. There it is. What that will give you is something that looks like this. So from that data that you saw in Yooz earlier, here is all of that data, that raw data, with a link back into the particular invoice. The great thing here is that Yooz has a plugin. So once I save this report, I don't even have to access Yooz, and this will be refreshed at ad hoc anytime you access the report with live data. So things that we can, types of reports that we can pull. KPIs. We want to know exactly how many documents each person has processed. Where are my bottlenecks? Let's identify those. Even with vendors, where are my bottleneck vendors? Which vendors' invoices are taking the longest to populate? We can look at vendor or header information. So is this spend on a vendor year over year, month over month? Breaking down our different spend in different time periods here with all of that vendor information. Open order data. Now breaking down our line data, so looking at this based on our coding. Tax breakdown, if you have different organizations, this is great as well. Also BI tools. If you have any BI tools, we can send this data directly out of Yooz through an API to hit some of those BI tools that you might possibly be working on. Payment data, exported data, if you're building those budgets in Yooz, budget snapshots. So some really amazing, we give you these templates, but you're able to manipulate the data within Excel as well with some of these pivot tables and graphs. And that's all included in the core product. Our AI fraud protection, Yooz advanced reporting. And then finally, we'll look at the statistics here. It's like, Liz, you told me it's, 85% accurate out of the box. How accurate is it? I don't know, right? So we actually give you a checks and balance here. With Yooz's machine learning, you can track the progress of our smart data extraction and see it progress over time. And I've seen it at 93% in less than 60 days. So it's not like it's going to take years for you to have really high accuracy here. This is live client data, in fact. So this client, 95.7% of the time, is doing no manual data entry. They can see all their documents in progress. They can see their month-over-month volume compared to spend. And also a quick ROI stat, how many days is it taking us to process invoices from a global perspective, late versus on-time tasks, and a few more optimization points here. So looking at, which vendors are, where's our top vendor spend, which vendors are the most accurate in the OCR recognition and in our field recognition. So some really cool, if some of you like to nerd out over stats, we give you some of those as well, especially with that smart data extraction.
I love it.
Again, lot more detail I can go into on some of these different things and diving in, someone mentioned earlier about POs, but that gives you the general feeling of all of the things that we're able to do. But the great thing is that we tailor this solution, right size it to what our clients' needs are, what our customers' needs are. So just going back to the deck here, let me see if this is up. There it is. And great.
There we go.
So we talked a little bit about the integration with GP. So that is a native integration with GP that we have. Doesn't matter if you're on-premise GP or if you have some cloud-based capabilities, that will run automatically, pushing in that master data and then also creating the batch in GP that you'll go into GP and post. But this is the conversation we're having with every GP customer. What's next, right? So Yooz has what's called a GP to BC bundle, where we will support you along with Endeavour in making that transition should you choose to go to BC. We make this very simple into where you don't lose any of your historical data. Yooz it can move with you. We're extremely scalable that way because we're basically just setting up, we can set up a sandbox company and send that information out to and from a different place, which gives you access. You can have all of the same reports. You can have the same workflows, right? We're just maybe making a couple modifications if it's a different ERP code. The cost remains the same. And then, all of that is getting set up in a month or less in the background. And then when we're ready to go live, we initiate it. So from a day-to-day perspective to the user, everything is pretty much the same. What our integration looks like with Business Central. So we do have a native API between Yooz and Business Central. So basically in real time, like every 15 minutes, we'll be updating your chart of accounts, vendors. We have multi-entity management set up, your PO push from Business Central into Yooz, customers, dimensions, fixed assets, and your taxes. Once those invoices have hit the completed status, the fully approved status per your workflows, that's actually a real-time instant push back into Business Central to create and post that entry on your PO payables and then also your credit notes. And I know I've mentioned, releasing payments in Yooz. Yes, if you release payments out of Yooz, we'll go back and mark that as paid. But what if I'm not, right? We'll pass it for payment and you'll release that payment out of Business Central, or this is the same way in GP as well. And then we'll actually push that information back into Yooz that will mark the bill as paid for Yooz. So great thing to be able to have that instant access within the system for maybe that vendor portal for subcontractors, your W-9 contractors, and then vendor statement reconciliation as well. Scott mentioned we can upload the files into Business Central, but we can also shoot them into SharePoint for you with the invoice image of the PDF of your invoice. Those supporting documents, those attachments can be like page 2 and 3 of that PDF, the full audit trail from Yooz, and the comments from Yooz, so the communication.
And someone did ask about finance and operations and similar approach for the enterprise accounts as well.
It's pretty much the exact same thing that you see here, just with finance and operations. Yeah.
And that's where you get the volume difference. Are you 400 or 1,000 invoices a month, or are you 50,000, 100,000 invoices a month? If you're 100,000 invoices a month, then that's over 1 million invoices a year, and there's a chance you might be more in the enterprise space. And obviously Endeavour and Yooz are here for you.
Yeah. And then what kind of ongoing support do we offer in day-to-day troubleshooting? Great question. Thank you for asking. So we do offer a what could be seen as a premium support that's included in the core product. So once our customers are live from, moving from their dedicated implementation team now into dedicated support, they're assigned a support representative that's been handed off. They do a handoff call so they understand your environment. You're not talking to a different person, re-explaining yourself every time. And also a dedicated account manager that is familiar with you as well. So you have direct access to those, not just a queue. So no buy-up plan for that. Within the application itself, there's a support chat. There's a message you can send directly out of Yooz, as well as onboarding materials that you have access to on-demand curriculums and training videos. In implementation, we do give live training to all of your accountants, your approvers, and the administrators of Yooz. So all of those different users at their particular role.
Yeah, it's really a great support model. So if something's not working and you can't find it in Business Central, that's where you call Endeavour. If it turns out that it was Yooz and a user error, or Yooz didn't push in something properly, then our support desk flips it over to their team, and then they take it from there, and obviously keep each other coordinated as you would expect from your top vendors.
Absolutely.
Okay, we're running low on time. Let's jump on to the next one, and I think that's basically my cue. So thank you, everyone. Next slide. For those that are watching recording and new to Endeavour, we've been around for 36 years now, over 1,100 clients through organic growth as well as mergers and acquisitions, and adding on some new logos as part of our team. One that is included is also Chicago, which recently joined us. So we have a lot of offices across Canada and across the U.S. Next slide. Lines of business, for those that are on the line, this invite only went out to Dynamics GP and Business Central. We also do support the finance and operations, but predominantly for today's call, down the middle, it's all the CRM, all the Business Central, all the Dynamics GP, everything Team Microsoft, and working with you for your digital transformation, including the advisory and the long-time optimization and support, and partnering with top providers such as Yooz to fill in and augment and expand on some of these items to help you get the most out of your Microsoft applications. Next slide. We'll actually hit that twice, and then basically we're on to what's next. So what's next, and some people did put it into the chat. Reply to your webinar invite. Reach out to Endeavour support if you can't find the webinar invite. Reach out to Trish, reach out to Steve, or other members of our team. If you recognize names on the list, then obviously you should have their emails. As well, I did put my own email into the meeting chat here. We're here to help. If all else fails, go to the Endeavour Solutions website, endeavorsolutions.com. Within the footer of every single page is Steve's personal email address, and he'll make sure that you get it connected to the right person, as well as obviously our support team. So with that said, thank you very much. We'll do one last slide. And if there are any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. We have Liz for now, and obviously we can access to Liz and many of her peers and other technical resources on the Yooz team, as well as within Endeavour. And we'll have a meeting of the minds to make sure that this is the right fit for your needs now, as well as into your needs in the future. Thanks, Liz. As always, quite amazing. You brought it all the way back to, the water cooler of, the invoices coming in, coming out, and you're expanding outside. I don't have access to, as director of marketing, I don't have access to our internal Business Central, but I could access something such as Yooz. So that unlimited user count and expanding into purchase requisitions, purchase orders, the invoice receipts and approvals, and all the workflow changes, multi-entity, multi-currency, multi-taxes. You can really see how You can start with a base implementation and expand as you grow,
Yep.
both on old systems and new systems, and year over year. So it's all fantastic match together, and that's why we're all excited to be here today. Thanks very much. Well, Vlad, why don't we just finish it up? We're at the top of the hour. We will be doing a recording and updating a landing page that we have for Yooz and sharing it out to everyone who attended today. Thanks so much. Bye for now.
Thank you, guys.